Hi everyone. So today, this is lesson 1.11, page 25 and 26. And today we're going to be talking about estimating fractions. Now I'll be straight up honest with you. I don't estimate fractions. I estimate with big numbers. Fractions, they're too small really to estimate. But the book wants us to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do. So is this a skill that I think that everybody needs to know? Sure. Do you use it every day? Probably not. Because usually when I think about estimating, I'm thinking about big and huge numbers. But there is a way to do this, and it kind of makes sense once you get the hang of it. All right. So what I want everybody to remember is when we talked about fractions, if they're more than less than 1/2. So for example, 2/5, what's half of 5? Well, half of 5 is 2.5. Okay? That would be half of 5. Well, 2/5, that would be really close to 1/2. Whereas 1/5 is further away from 1, so you could even say 0 on that. You could estimate that down to 0. But really, 1/2 is a good place to start, okay? Especially if you're adding. Let's take another example. Say 7/9. Well, 7/9, if we colored it in, and you can even draw these things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I were to color in 7/9, that almost looks like 1. So I could actually say this is close to 1. I know that's more than 1/2, and it's pretty close to 1. And then with the 1/2, if I had something like 5/9, well, 5/9 is more than 1/2, but it's really close to 1/2 because half of 9 is 4.5. So I could estimate that's close to 1/2, right? So again, it's not something I normally do, but it's definitely doable. All right, so we're going to use this idea of finding a fraction, getting a fraction close to either 1/2, a fraction close to 0, or a fraction close to 1 to help us estimate and add and subtract. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so using the number lines, and when it talks about a benchmark, it's saying 0, 1/2, and 1. Those are our benchmarks that we're going to use. That means benchmarks is another way of saying like goalpost, if you will, or post. All right. So we're going to use the benchmarks of 0, 1/2, and 1 to estimate the sum and difference, then find the actual sum and distance. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it with fractions, and then we're going to do it again with whole numbers. Okay? So let's take number 1, for example. So I've got 1/4 plus 7/8. Well, 7/8 is kind of like my 7/9. It's going to be really close to 1. So I can estimate that this is plus 1. And I don't know if I would actually say that 1/4 is going to be that much bigger. It's actually 1/4, if I look at it in a number line, it's actually closer to 0 than it would be to 1/2 or 1. Okay, so this is 3/4, 2/4, 1/4. So I'm going to actually say that this is closer to 0. And it's okay that it's closer to 0, so I'm going to put that as 0. So my estimate would be 1. Because 1/4 is closer to 0 than it is closer to anything else. And then 7/8 is 1. Okay? So that's my guess, is it's going to equal 1. And it's okay if my guess is wrong. We're estimating. But I have a feeling my guess is going to be pretty right, and you'll see. All right, so I've got 1/4 plus 7/8. Okay, now we talked about yesterday, I don't have to change the 7/8 because it is a factor of 4, or sorry, multiple of 4. 4 is a factor of 8. 4 times 2 equals 8. And 1 times 2 equals 2. And I'm adding together. So 2 plus 7 is 9/8. Well, golly jeepers, that's really close to 1. Okay, so that's an improper fraction. So 9 goes in the house. 8 divides by 9. 8 goes into 1 time, and 1/8 left over. So my estimate of 1 actually worked out. because 2 eighths plus 7 eighths equals 9 eighths, which equals 1 1/8. Okay, and 1/8 is really close to 0. So I know that that's a pretty accurate thing. Okay, so we're going to estimate. Funny enough, I think the next one's going to be the same thing. Okay, so that's what I did. I estimated to 0 and 1, and I got 1 1/8. Really close, in the ballpark at least. And that's really what estimating is about, is getting in the ballpark. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. Now, we're subtracting. Yay, everybody loves a little subtraction. Okay, so we got 7/16 minus 5/12. Well, what's half of 16? 8. So 7's really close to 1/2. So I'm going to do 1/2 minus, well, what's half of 12? 6. So 5/12 is really close to, sorry, let me move that for you, is really close to 1/2. What do you know? So 1/2 minus 1/2 is 0. So our answer is going to be really close to 0. Okay? Neither one of these will make it all the way to 1, but they're super close to 1/2, so it's okay. So now I need to find a number that is got these two in common. And unfortunately, I cannot simplify either one of these because both 7 and 5 are prime. So I need to think, what number do 12 and 16 have in common? Well, that's a great question. So 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. What's 16 times 3? Let's think about that. 16 times 3 happens to be 48. And guess what 12 times 4 equals? Oh, that's right, everybody, 48. I know, get excited. So 12 times 4 equals 48. And 16 times 3 equals 48. I'll admit I used a calculator. I did. All right, so now I've got 21 minus 20. Because top and bottom should match. This is a good spot check. Top and bottom, matchy, matchy, matchy. Okay, and I'm subtracting, so 21 minus 20 is 1/48. Oh, that's really super close to 0, don't you think? Because think about it. Would you eat 1/48 of a cookie? Imagine how small that piece is. So it's really close to 0. So we would argue that our math is correct. Okay, so I have 21/48 minus 20/48, and I get 1/48. So it matches. It's close enough. It's in the ballpark. And that's, again, what estimating is about. We are getting in the ballpark. All right, so we're going to estimate 5/6 plus 9/10. So we've got 5/6 plus 9/10. Well, 5/6 is really close to 1. 9/10 is really close to 1. It's more than half because, and then even this would be a great one to draw out because that would look like this. Oops, that would look like that. And 9/10 would look very similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It would look like this. So it's very similar. So both of those are close to 1. So I'm going to estimate 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, so that's my estimate because both 5, 6, and 9/10 are close to 1. Now, I'm going to add them up. All right, so I have 5/6 plus 9/10. First number that 10 and 6 have in common is 30, not 60. You can do 60, it'll work, but it'll be big. So that's 5, that's 25, that's 5, that's 30. 6 times 5 is 30, and that's 3. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, sorry, in case you can't see that. I got my computer in the way. I have to move everything over. Sorry. All right, so 10 times 3 equals 30. 9 times 3 equals 27, not 21. I knew that. I was just making sure you were paying attention. You're welcome. And then 6 times 5 is 30, and 5 times 5 is 25. So I'm going to add these up. Okay? Well, 15 plus 7 is 12. Is it 12? It's 12. Carry the 1. That's 42/30. Okay. So, is that right? No, 52/30. I was paying attention. It's late, I'm tired. Okay, so got to turn that into a mixed number. So 52's in the house, 30 goes knocking on the door. Again, the book is in the way. Okay, 30 goes into 52 one time. With 22/30 left over. I know it doesn't seem like it, but that's super close to being 2. It only needs 8 more pieces to be another 2. So this is actually accurate. Okay, it's 1 and a lot. So I can go back and go 25/30 plus 27/30 equals 52/30, which equals 1 and 22/30. Okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, so what we did here with fractions is the same thing that we're going to do with mixed numbers. All right, I'm going to check how much time. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing that we did with that. All right, so instead of going to 1, 1/2, or 0, we're going to round to the nearest whole number. Okay, so we've got 5 2/3 minus 3 1/6. Okay. 5 2/3. Well, 2/3 is more than 1/2, so 5.5 rounded to the nearest whole number is 6. So I'm going to round 5 to 6, because you go up. And then 3 1/6, well, 1/6 is less than 1/2, so I'm going to keep 3 the same. Okay, I'm going to move 5 up 1, I'm going to leave 3 the same. Remember the rules of rounding? If you can't go up, you just stay the same. All right, so 3 minus 6 is 3. So what I'm going to write for this is 6 minus 3 equals 3. And now let's see if I'm close. Okay, so 5 2/3 minus 3 1/6. Well, 6 is the common, so I'm going to move that over. And 3 times 2 equals 4/6. 4/6 minus 1/6 is 3/6. 5 minus 3 is 2. So I've got 2 3/6, or 2 1/2. And that's pretty close to 3. Okay, so I've got 5 4/6 minus 3 1/6, and I get 2 3/6. So it's fairly close. Okay, so let's look at number 5. I got 1 1/4 plus 2 7/10. Again, 1 1/4 is like $1.25. That's not a lot, so I'm going to round out that one. It's less than $1.50, so I'm going to round that down to 1. And then 2 7/10, well, half of 10 is 5, so 7/10 is more than half. So 2 1/2 we're going to round that up to 3. So I'm going to guesstimate that we got 1 plus 3 equals 4. Okay, I'm going to guesstimate that. And again, we're trying, and it's okay if you get it wrong. So now I'm going to do 1 1/4 plus 2 7/10. Okay, first number they have in common is 20. So that's 5, so that's 5, and that's 2, and that's 2, and that's 14. Okay, so that's 19/20. So that's 3 19/20. Golly jeepers, 3 19/20 is awfully close to 4. So it's 1 1/4 plus, 1 5/20 plus 2 14/20 equals 3 19/20. So it's super close. Okay. Now, Mrs. Hutchins, can I work backwards? Sure. Why not? You can work backwards. Sometimes it's easier to work backwards. So on this one, I'm going to do the math first. So we got 3 3/8 minus 1 3/16. So I'm subtracting. Okay, well 16, 8 times 2 is 16, so I don't need to do anything about that, but I do need to multiply that. All right, so 3 times 2 is 6. Awesome sauce. 6 minus 3 is 3/16. I don't have to borrow. Yay! 3 minus 2 is 2/16. 2 3/16. So, not quite 2 1/2. Not quite. A little more than 2. All right, so I'm going to write that down. I've got 3 6/16 minus 1 3/16 equals 2 3/16. Okay, I know that. Well, 3 3/8, I'm going to round that to the nearest whole number. And the nearest whole number, 3 3/8 is like 3.3. That's like $3.30. That's going to go down to 3. Minus, well, 3/16 is really close to 1, so minus 1 equals 2. So that works. So you can do that way as well. All right, folks, here's what you're going to do. You are going to do 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 all by yourself. You're going to estimate. So in this one, so it looks like your whole numbers round to the nearest whole number. And on your fractions, you're going to round to either 0, 1, or 0, 1/2, or 1. All right, good luck.